Hi, welcome to week one of the program seminar for the Master of Arts in Ministry program here at Grace Christian University. You probably already know that I'm Dr. Tim Rumley, your instructor for this course. You can find out more about me in the introduction discussion and then a little bit in the welcome video. But let's look at what we have to do in week one. I've already clicked on the Module 1 link over here on the left, so we are into the Module 1 page here. And let me just kind of give you a quick overview that we're trying to build the skills you need in this course for a biblical master's degree program. So skill number one is thinking and writing from a biblical worldview. So we're going to talk about what a biblical worldview is, how we develop ours, and you're going to write a little about it and about how people critique it. Then Module 2, Foundations of Critical Thinking. You need a biblical worldview, but you also need to be a critical thinker. And for many in our world, they think that's a contradiction in terms, but we don't believe so. And I'll talk about that more in Module 2. In Module 3, biblical and theological research, because this is a Master of Arts in Ministry program at a biblical university. You need to be able to do biblical and theological research. But then Module 4, biblical research and application to ministry. This is not a program which is intended to have you thinking in the clouds and living in an ivory tower. It's to help you do ministry. So we want to get from our research to application, and that'll be Module 4. Module 5 is biblical worldview and cultural engagement. Christians have taken multiple approaches to culture. We've tried to dominate culture and hide from culture and create a parallel culture. We want to think about how, as biblically thinking Christians, we can engage culture, and that's Module 5. And then Module 6 extends the cultural engagement theme to Christianity and cultural engagement. And those are the basic skills for this master's degree program. So this week, you're going to work on a biblical worldview. I'll let you read that introduction. Please do. Here's your learning outcomes. At the end of this week, you should be able to identify the foundations of a biblical worldview, examine the ways in which contemporary culture views those who hold a biblical worldview, often not complementary, and reflect on the formation of your own biblical worldview. You'll need to do some reading in Morrow, Think Christianly, chapters 4 through 9, and go through two video lectures by Dr. Shane Johnson. And the assignments you'll be doing, well, those are these four here. We'll take a look at them more in a moment, and you will find those videos by Dr. Johnson here in Lectures, Media, and Supplements. They are right there. So that is the where you find the materials. Now let's look at the assignments. Right down here under Learning Activities. Learning Activities is a fancy name for your assignments for the week. The first one's the easy one, personal introduction discussion. You just click on that and go in here, and here's a discussion forum, which I assume you know how to operate. You'll click and create a thread and tell us something about yourself. There's instructions for that I just went past, and you'll find one there from me. And you can look at that and read mine and see my beautiful family there. Now, be sure not only to tell us about yourself, but interact a little bit with each other. Notice something you have in common. Say hello to someone you met before maybe. But let's get in the habit of interacting thoroughly in our discussion boards. So let me make my way back here to the learning activities. So the simple one, you will get 5 points in your grade for participating as the introduction discussion. Now the next one is a biblical worldview discussion. And this is allowing us to interact with each other, you and me, about what it means to have a biblical worldview, what are the aspects of a biblical worldview. And so there's a series of discussion questions here. You don't have to answer them all. The assignment instructions are to post your answers to one or more of those questions. And to cite the relevant thought of another scholar besides Morrow that you've been reading. find what some other scholar has to say on biblical worldview. You could look up names like James Sire is one of the well-known Christian worldview proponents, I should say. Charles Colson did a lot of work in that regard. And in fact, in your next assignment, you have some links to Colson works. And another name just slipped my mind. But if you have questions, feel free to get in touch with me. But get your first discussion post up by Friday at midnight. There's one place in the course materials where it suggests Thursday at midnight. The earlier the better, because you need to interact with each other. But I won't count anything late that's after Friday midnight for your first post. And then be sure to interact in a substantive way with at least 2 of your classmates, and then to respond to everybody that responds to you. Then the next one is your paper for the week. This is kind of the big deal. It's 75 points. The first 2 assignments were 5 points and 30 points. This is a biblical worldview analysis paper. Now, this assignment is kind of long and wordy, but the assignment instructions: first, take time to browse some of the articles related to biblical worldview and note what are the essential features of a biblical worldview. So first, in the paper, explain what a biblical worldview is. And then second, make a search of biblical worldview on the internet. Be sure to use words like Christian worldview critique or criticism in your search, and ensure that the websites in your survey are scholarly or academically reputable. Now, to get truly scholarly stuff, you're going to have to go to the library and go into journal articles. And I'd love to see some of those. For this assignment, you can also use some things like maybe the New York Times editorial page, or thought-leading magazines like National Review, where they are credible sources. Don't cite blogs. Don't cite sensationalistic tabloid-type news sources. But see what kind of critique the world makes of a Christian worldview or a biblical worldview, and notice these questions about how people view the Christian worldview and what they think of it. And then go back to your paper. The first part tells you about what a biblical worldview is, and then how people critique it, and then a little bit of your answer to those critiques. And this is to be an APA format paper, and have that uploaded by next Monday night at midnight. One other note, this article right here, Worldview Bootcamp, when you click on that, you're only going to get part of the article. Here's just a little extra piece of the assignment to help you build your skills. You can find the rest of that article by going to the ATLA database in the Bultema Library at Grace Christian University. Go into the database section of the website, search the ATLA database for Worldview Bootcamp, and you will get the whole article. It's actually not very much longer than the partial when you get it, but you can find that whole thing, and that'll build your skills a little bit. And then the last assignment is the weekly reflection discussion. Now, this course is a lot of work, and these reflections are really important. And the discussion can be really helpful, but if you need to let anything go until the last minute, this is the piece to let go, because this should be reflecting on all the work you did for the week and helping you think about and be able to say, this is what I learned this week. And when you think about and say, this is what I learned, you learn it better. So the responses to other students are optional in the weekly reflection discussion. It really needs to be done at the end. So get it in by Monday midnight, but if there isn't much discussion, I understand that. If there is discussion, that's a way you folks can help each other out. Holy cow, I've taken 10 minutes to try and explain this. I hope it's been helpful. Feel free to get in touch with me, and I look forward to having a great class together.